Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dog, and another exciting broadcast today. 5 common mistakes salespeople make in the sale of a car. Now, no matter who you are, this is an opinionated thing. Maybe my opinion is different than yours, but my guest today is a nationally known sales trainer, Noel Walsh. And let's see what he looks like. Here he comes. Hi, guy.
Pleasure, Jim.
You ready to do 5 common mistakes salespeople make selling a car?
As ready as ever.
Fantastic. As I mentioned, it's a matter of opinion. And you and I are going to be talking experiential based things things we've seen, things we've done in a dealership, things we've experienced, things we've observed, things we see people doing every day that we feel are mistakes. Okay, let's start out with number 1. Noel, what is the number 1 mistake you see salespeople making?
I think the number 1 is, I always go by the line, mind over matter. And first off, you have to believe in the product you sell, believe in the supplemental ancillary products that you sell, and most importantly, believe in your own potential, abilities, place of business, management staff, co-workers, supporting staff, but most of all, you have to believe in the whole ball that makes it all happen. You have to believe in that and believe in the products and the services that you sell.
Okay, I would totally agree that is one of the 10, maybe one of the 5, I'm not sure. But totally believe. You can't sell something you haven't got confidence in. You can't sell a shoddy product, and you can't. Most cars today, there are no bad cars.
I agree.
I mean, everybody's building a good car. When you want to sell a car, you're not selling a bad product. Even the worst cars on the market are pretty good cars. So I'm going to go with that. Look, so believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. What about that?
Yeah. So you have to believe that you are there, you are capable, and you always have to be willing to learn. That's why you and I both have online training platforms, so people can learn at 2 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. They can play our videos, our podcast, whatever it is, while they're taking a shower or brushing their teeth or shaving or getting ready or, getting the kids out of bed. They can put in the earbuds, put in the headphones, but believe in yourself first and foremost, that you are capable, and always be willing to go to where you want to grow or grow to where you want to go. And do that by being humble enough to know that you don't know everything, and being smart enough to decipher what will actually help you succeed.
That was something I've never been inflicted with, humility.
That's good.
Nobody's ever said Ziegler was humble, but willing to learn, willing to observe the people that are the best at what they do. When I drove from Jacksonville to Atlanta in 1982 with my mattresses tied to the roof of my car, everybody knows that story. I made 2 decisions that night. The first decision, I will be the best I am capable of being. I will be the very best at what I do. I'm a car salesman. This is what I do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the very best at it. And the second decision, I will study my profession as surely as if I were studying for a master's degree in any other profession. I'm a high school graduate from the bad side of town. And when I became a salesman, I made more money than I had ever made doing anything, including some executive positions I had had previously. So I made a decision to seek out role models, mentors, people that were better than me, and to emulate their best habits, and to get rid of the losers, the whiners, the wimps, the criminals, the crybabies, and the criminals out of my life. Okay, so number 1, believe in yourself, believe in your product. I can agree with that. Tell me something else.
Yeah, and so you want me to go into number 2, or you want me to elaborate on that?
Elaborate. We got time.
Yeah. So if you're selling a product and you think, we're just going to say you're selling Toyota Camry, right?
Mm-hmm.
but you feel a Honda Accord is a better product, then when you're giving a demonstration, you're trying to convince the customer, you're trying to create value, that's going to show up because people see and understand 90% of how we act and not exactly what we say.
How many customers today have made brand decision, do you think?
You know, I think very few, to tell you the truth. I think
Really?
they go to, 3 or 4, put in applications at 3 or 4 dealerships, or they might even go, we both deal with dealer groups, and they'll want to go sell Ford, and they're saying, hey, we're going to put you over here at the Dodge store. So that kind of stuff can happen. But as long as, like you said, I think all products now, if you take a $20,000 ABC model and a $20,000 XYZ model, I think they're almost the same. Right? They're going to have similar features, similar safety, similar technology. One might rate a little bit higher in that. But if you do go to somewhere that wasn't your first choice, like I'm from Michigan, I'm a Ford guy. My grandfather was, head of Ford Steel. I sold Ford products for my 16 years in retail. I was always a Ford guy. But just be rehearsed on the product and know where your strengths are in that product, right? Because every model, when I sold domestic cars, and a lot of the Japanese cars had higher quality ratings and different things like that, I knew that we had more comfortable seats and a bigger trunk. So I would focus on the strengths of my product and believe in that product and know that I would feel comfortable buying that product. So therefore, I was able to create that value and convince the customer that this is the right product for them and their family and their, daily commute.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you my number one reason I think salespeople make mistakes selling a car.
Please do.
I think the number one mistake salespeople make is premature discussion of figures.
Yes.
They're not selling cars, they're selling deals.
Yes.
And I want that customer to buy the car the way they want to buy the car. That is an evolution in the process. We're not controlling the sequence of events as well as we used to. So Correct. If the customer really insists on the numbers, I'm going to get them the numbers. But I'm going to resist doing that. I'm not going to make that the number one priority in our conversation. Because every customer is going to come on the lot, and the first thing they're going to do is say, what's your best price? Now, a lot of customers have already researched on the internet. They know your internet price. And what do? They come on the lot. Is that your best price? Is that your very best price? All of a sudden, your internet price was your best price, whether you are a one price, no haggle dealer, or whether you are a negotiating dealership. I don't care. Customers are going to try to negotiate. So what do salespeople say when the customer comes on the lot and the first thing they want to talk about is money? One thing I can tell you as a trainer, whenever you are talking about money, you are losing money. If the conversation's about money, you're losing money. You just remember that. So the customer says, what's your best price? And I've heard all these glib answers. Well, that's the very best part of my job, the very easiest thing I do. Quit it. That still doesn't answer the question. You get into all these bullcrap answers. No, my word track for that is, what's your best price? My best price, no problem whatsoever. If that's important to you, we'll do business today. Matter of fact, it is our company policy not only to get you the best price, but I'm going to give you all the information you need to make an intelligent and informed decision. I'm going to get you the price, what will pay for your trade, the monthly payment amount, the alternative lease payment, the interest rate, whatever you want to know. All we require is that we know what specific car we're talking on before we get into the numbers. So let's pick out a car, drive it, we'll get with the manager, and we'll discuss your terms, and be no pressure to buy whatsoever. Is that fair? That's a pretty complex word track. No pressure to buy. Is that fair? What do you think?
I think that's beautiful. I heard a line, I think second or third year in the business, and this guy had been around at a lot of dealerships, and he was the sharp guy. He's since passed. He passed young. but he was a really aggressive personality. But one of the lines he learned, one of the word tracks was fair enough, right?
Well, that's one of my word tracks.
Yeah. So and he might have got it from you.
Well,
And
I guarantee you did.
like 0203, and
nobody was teaching that before I started teaching that.
And that was back in like 02 or 03. And I'd ask the customers that, and I would use analogies. Like I used analogies a lot. I say, hey, similar to what you said. And so I'll just kind of sum it up. Hey, da 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 da. I'm 100% commission. Which a lot of dealerships aren't anymore. But when I first started selling, we were. And so, hey, I don't get paid unless I sell you a car. My number one job is to make sure that you feel that you're getting the best value, the best product for the best price. Right. But first off, let's make sure we're on the right vehicle. Let me show you this vehicle and then take control and lead the customer out to the vehicle. Or do if you've got a similar vehicle in the showroom, do a walk around. But take control of that customer. And if they say, no, I just want a price. And I say, hey, when you go to DSW or Foot Locker or wherever you get your shoes, I go, you try them on before you buy them, correct? And they say
that makes a lot of sense. I generally tell the customer, Mr. Customer, the MSRP on this car is that your best price? No, certainly not. But we do require you select and drive a specific vehicle before we discuss the figures. Now that's fair, isn't it? That's fair, isn't it? Now, the fairness challenge, I invented that, who knows, 1980 something. But the fairness challenge was always, because nobody wants to perceive themselves to be unfair. So when you say, is that fair? I'm going to get you all the information you need to make an intelligent decision. Is that fair? I'll get you the best price, the payment, anything you want to know. And if the customer genuinely insists, that's the time I want to turn it to a manager. That's the time I want manager involved. And if they're a good manager, they've already touched the customer. I really hate it when I see managers that hide out and don't want to face the customer early.
Yes.
And in most of my career, I was a manager. You folks having a good experience, my salesman doing a good job, I would always touch the people. Okay, no, what is your number 2 most common mistake salespeople make?
I think they get into sales, especially automotive sales, which can be somewhat taxing. It can be stressful. It requires a lot of commitment of time, awkward hours, but you have to not look at it as a job, but look at it as a career. And I remember I was speaking at a conference not long ago, and I was talking, and a bunch of salespeople came up to me, and they're like, hey, well, I'm just in car sales because I know you can make a lot of money until I get my internet business rolling. And so they didn't have the passion to look at it as a career, but they were just looking at it as a job, which is to me the same thing as stocking soup cans at the grocery store, what have you. Like they're just looking for a paycheck. And I think when you get into it as a career and you really embed yourself looking to it as a career, the automotive industry is one of the few industries where you can have I've only got a high school education as well. And we both made millions of dollars in the industry. And so it's also a, career path. It's also an occupation to where you can go to management without having a 4-year college degree or without having a master's or a doctorate or something like that. Like your pure hustle, skill level, and passion can take you to higher levels. I mean, how many times have you heard about a dealer who started washing cars in the back? Right?
Oh, incredible. So many times. And I put HSG right on my business card, high school graduate. my business card is James A. Ziegler, CSP, HSG. The other day I was in some online broadcast and somebody said, what does HSG mean? That's the high school graduate. I see people put PhD and all on their business cards. I'll put HSG on mine. So yeah, study your profession as surely as if you're studying for a master's degree. And you're absolutely right, Noel. I see so many salespeople involved in their little side hustles, Well, excuse me, if you're looking to become an Amway millionaire, you're never going to be a great car salesman. And you look at the failure of side hustles, it's incredible.
Oh, probably 90% plus.
You're never going to be a world record setting salesperson with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Totally 1/3 of the salespeople in the market today in the dealerships are waiting for the day when they get a better job, when they don't realize this is the good job. When I walked into a car dealership in 1976, I had been a radio executive. I had been a general sales manager of a very large radio station. And I walked into the dealership and said, I'd like to be a car salesman. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't like to be a car salesman. I wanted to get a free demo and until I could find a better job. But then, the 3rd month in the industry, I made $4,500. In 1976, I had never made that kind of money as an executive. Never. That was a lot of money in that time frame of history. I'm as a radio executive, I made about 30,000, and that was really great money. And here I was making $4,500 a month selling cars, and I realized this is the good job. Stop looking for a better job. This is the good job. So elaborate on that.
Yeah, so take it as a career. Like I said, I hear examples all the time, and people come up and they say, "Hey, this and that, and I'm just doing it till I get my online business going, or I do this, or I created a shoe, or whatever they're looking for." And I'm like, "How many cars did you sell last month?" I'm like, 22. I'm like, think if you focused on that, right? Just 100% on your career, and not just a flyover job, we'll call it, because that's one of the catchphrases right now. But just a bridging job. Think if you focused on that and you sold 35 cars. So now you're making 50% more plus because of bonuses in that. Think how much money you could make. And sales is a fun business. When I first went on my own, I would sit in my office and just make phone calls. And I'm like, man, I'm bored as heck. And I would think, I worked in an office my whole life, but a car dealership's different because you're running back to prep to see if they've got your delivery done. You're setting an appointment. You're helping a customer out in service. You're doing all these other things that there's so much action and hustle and energy that, energy breeds energy. And so when you really take that on and you just don't look at it as, hey, this is a flyover job. It's a bridge until I find something better, and you take it on. Next thing you know, you're new car sales manager, you're business manager, finance manager, you're GSM. And the next thing,
as a manager, I generally require people as they're moving up into the management arena, they start in finance. To me, finance is the premier job in the dealership.
It is.
I always get really pissed off when somebody tells me I got promoted to sales manager from F&I. Wait a minute, you had the better job. And it's amazing to me that you talk about a flyover job, and we got a number of people watching this broadcast. My friend Carl Madonna just showed up, Philip Calvert, Carl Langston, and I'll tell you, people don't realize how good a job this is. And general managers in this business make as much as $500,000 a year or more.
Yes.
And you've got a better chance of that than becoming a surgeon if you're a first-year medical student. There's a better odds of becoming a general manager of a car dealership than becoming a surgeon, considering the dropout rate on first-year medical students. So what is your third biggest mistake?
Did you want to touch base on your second, or?
I could do my second. Sure. Oh, and one thing that you said earlier that I had a thought process. I didn't want to interrupt you. When I'm teaching people in a car dealership how to prepare to greet a customer. Now, whether this is a customer that you've been talking to on the phone, this is a customer you've been talking to on the keyboard, or this is a customer you just walked onto your lot and is cold shopping, you never met them before. The first affirmation. I grew up in the Lutheran church. Now, Lutherans are like Catholics with a little less guilt, you know. So, so here I am, I'm a Lutheran, and we do affirmations, the affirmation of faith, the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed. Every time you turn around in the Lutheran religion, you're standing up reciting an affirmation of what you believe. Well,
Yes.
I teach salespeople to recite affirmations of what you believe. And the first affirmation goes like this. When I see that customer, whether I've been talking to him or not, when I see the customer, the first affirmation, it's showtime. I would clap. When I was a brand new salesman, I'd stand. I didn't hang with the gang. I was on the other end of the lot. But when the customer pulled up, the first thing people see me do, I'd start getting wound up. And when I clap my hands, I was telling myself, turn on the enthusiasm, turn on the mindset, up your energy. It's showtime. Get enthusiastic. Light up your eyes. I'm welcome to the dealership. Glad you're here. And when I say welcome, it sounds like welcome. I see so many salespeople with that deadpan face walk out there with what I call dead ass low energy, and they walk out there, welcome to the dealership, and it sounds like eat crap and die. It sounds hard. They don't sound like welcome. Welcome to the dealership, man. I'm glad you're here. And when you approach a customer with that level of enthusiasm, that level of energy, that level of happiness, I love customers. I genuinely care about them, and I care about their well-being, genuinely. And that really makes a difference. Really makes a difference. So let's get into my second biggest mistake I think salespeople make. Fear of the money. They're afraid to ask the customer for the money. Yes. Now, that gets to be a problem. And there's a reason for this. Now, I know that we're going to be giving this broadcast today on my sales platform, and a lot of salespeople are going to be watching this as well as managers. Why are you afraid of the money? Well, let me say something to most salespeople, the majority of you. The reason you are afraid of the money, now you don't need to admit it to me. I don't care. I don't want you to stand up and it's not a tent revival. You don't need to stand up and cry or confess or faint or anything like that. You just need to tell yourself, if I'm telling you the truth, the reason you are afraid of the money, if you're afraid of the money, just admit it inside. I don't care. If you're afraid of the money, the reason probably is, now think about this. You personally couldn't afford to buy the car yourself. You're asking this customer to give you money that you couldn't personally pay for. And, when you're asking a customer for $10,000 down, and $10,000 is more money than you've ever saved up at any one time in your life. And, say you're dealing with a Jim Ziegler. I'll stroke a check for the whole car. I don't care. $10,000 is not a lot of money to me in the scheme of things. And when you're dealing with a customer like me and you're afraid to ask for the money because you personally are reticent about you don't have that much money, that fear of the money. When I look at that customer in the eye and say, sir, most banks would like to see as much as 20% down for preferred and premium financial programs. Most of our banks, and that is a true statement, most banks would like to see as much as, I don't say require it, they don't require it. Ideally. But most banks would like to see as much as 20% down for preferred and premium financial programs. So our premium financing is dependent on down payment. You can get a lower rate, you can get a better term, you can get all sorts of better financing with the correct down payment. So most of our banks would like to see as much as 20% down for preferred and premium financial programs. So we'd like to get a check from you today, sir, for $8,396.15. And I get that specific about it. And the customer said, I don't have that much money. And I come immediately take the blood pressure off. No, sir, no problem. The banks don't require 20%. I can certainly obtain financing at a good rate for less down payment. How close to that can you come up with? How much do you feel you're going to be short of that figure? So fear of the money. You can't be afraid of the money. You have to present the figures with confidence and act like you believe the customer's going to write that check for $8,300. You've got to believe that. And a number of customers will.
And good point, because I should have had this on mine, is to go off of what you just said, is salespeople don't let the customer answer the question. Like you just did in your word track. Hey, we require 10,000 down. Can you afford that? Not, but, the bank would prefer, can you afford that? No, say the bank would prefer 20% down, which is 10,000 or 83.96 and 15 cents.
Yeah, exactly.
And then stop, right? And let the customer then back up, analyze, chat with the Mr. or Mrs. and say, well, we can't come up with that today, but we can come up with X. But so many salespeople.
What you're saying is never talk past the close.
Correct.
I see salespeople that stutter all over the close. They ask the customer, write me a check for $8,316.15. And the customer does one of these. And before the customer says the next word, the salesman, well, if you haven't got that much, all of a sudden the salesperson don't anticipate what the people are going to say. Don't act like when you ask the customer to write you the check, the next person that speaks is the customer, not you. The customer speaks next. I don't.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Fear of the money. Fear of the money, the number 2 reason in the Ziegler book that salespeople blow deals. Tell me your number 3.
So that's good, because I'm going to go to my 5th one, which I'm going to use as my number 3. And it kind of plays off what you said, and that's not taking every customer opportunity on as a buyer and not giving great demonstrations and walkarounds. So if you don't first give that great demonstration and you just start talking about the money, kind of like what we talked about earlier, you don't make it a dynamite. I always teach, make it a dynamite presentation, have that energy. I did the same thing. You said you would clap. I would snap my fingers. Like when I knew I had like 5 appointments that day, I'd be like snapping my fingers, like waiting, like looking at my watch or something. And they'd be like, man, why are you always snapping? So I'd get myself pumped up. But they don't take on every customer. They pre-qualify, kind of like what you touched base on in your number 2, that, hey, I couldn't come up with 10,000. I couldn't come up with 83.16 and 15 cents. So how can I ask that for them? And just assume that every customer has the ability. Once you've gone through that, once you've gone through the steps to the road to the sale, the steps to the sale, assume that customer, especially in today's age, I mean, the business has changed, but it hasn't changed all that much. And now customers are more, they're more educated, so they kind of know what they can get. I mean, there's payment.
They do. They honestly do.
And so we go in and we decide what the customer can get. If they come in, how often have you heard of? We've heard of this 1,000 times. Both of us, we've seen it maybe 1,000 times. You longer than me, or you more than me, I would assume, because you've been in the finance desk. I haven't, but I worked at a store where we did, it was a cradle to the grave. We did the whole process A to Z. But when you pre-qualify customers, or say they, I had a guy and the guy was worth like $10 million, and he'd come in some cargo shorts and like a ratted out Harley t-shirt, and the guy could write a check for basically a quarter of our inventory, right? And he could write a check for a quarter of our inventory. So when you're not taking every customer opportunity on as a buyer, and you're cutting through the steps to the sale, you're taking shortcuts, you're not giving everyone the same demonstration, And my dad taught me this a long time ago. He said, hey, they might not be able to afford the car, but you never know. They might get a scratch off ticket. They might win this. They might have a rich uncle who says, hey, I'm looking for a truck. And they say, hey, you got to go see this guy, Noel Walsh, over at ABC Motors. Even though he couldn't get me approved, he took care of me and made me feel like a human being. He took care of me and listened to me and truly cared, and he truly worked for me. So you should go see him. So sometimes the people that you can't make a sale to for one reason or another, sometimes they'll be your biggest advocate because they'll see the time that you put in. They will appreciate that, and they'll be more likely to become your advocate. And
many times I've sold a car to somebody that I wouldn't think would be able to buy the car. Many times. So you talk about qualification. That has always been one of my biggest peeves with management and systems in car dealerships, is that people qualify the stupidest question you can ask a customer. The most dumbass question you could ask a customer. And I see it on people's guest sheets. What's your budget? Oh. What's your budget? How much do you want to pay? I mean, what a stupid ass question that is. What is your budget? Tell me a number that absolutely will not work. Tell me a number that has no mathematical correlation to the car you're looking at. Tell me a number you made up on the exit ramp. Excuse me. When you ask a customer, what's your budget? They're going to lowball you.
Yes.
If they've already discussed $750 a month, they're going to tell you $500 a month. And then the next stupidest thing the salesperson, the manager are going to do is try to get down to that $500 a month. The customer must see your number before you listen to their number. They must react to your number where they're bumping you down and you're not bumping them up. And that is absolutely incredible. That I see so many people, what's your budget? It doesn't matter what their budget is. I teach salespeople, where do you work? What do you do there? How long have you been there? Where did you buy your last car? Where did you finance your last car? Where do you work? What do you do there? How long have you been there? That'll give me a good idea of their income level. Where did you buy your last car? Where did you finance your last car? Those 5 questions will tell me whether I have a qualified buyer or not. Because I know.
No, I agree with you completely. It's all about building the relationship and asking them. I teach the FROM method. I learned FORM from some sales training years and years ago.
I teach FORM.
But I switched it to FROM because I go into family first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're divorced, don't have any kids, whatever, kids don't talk to them, we brush past family, right? And then I get into recreation. And, hey, so what do you like to do on the weekends? Where'd you take your last trip to? Do you have any, trips planned this summer? Blah, blah. Get them, if they're recreation, their kid's a wakeboarder, they're out on the lake every weekend, they're just going to go off like the whole time. Just, oh yeah, my son is this and that. My daughter does, competition cheer. And so shoot, we were in Austin last weekend and we're going to, New Jersey next weekend. And this, you get them talking about that. And then I get into occupation because where I sold, I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which there's a lot of high-tech companies, there's a lot of universities, there's a lot of hospitals. So I dealt with a lot of like professors, doctors, and sometimes they didn't want to tell you what they do right away because then they think that you're going to try and rip them off. So that's where I switched the O and the R. The O with the R is occupation. And once you've built that relationship, now you can start talking about money, but you do this through your process, through your demonstration, through your walk around. So you don't talk about money until you're sitting at the desk.
Amazingly enough, now you learned FORM. Where did you learn that? Do you know?
I had a friend of mine, and he's actually an Olympic swimmer, and he was working for Northwestern Mutual. And he's like, they taught me FORM, and this was probably like 2009, 2010. And he's like, they taught me FORM. And so I got the concept, and I'm like, that's kind of what I do anyways. Because
what if I told you I can show you in my sales training manual in 1986 when I introduced FORM to the industry?
I wouldn't doubt it.
So many things that I have created have just gone outside the industry. Like he was with Northwestern.
Yeah.
So many things that I personally created have gone all over the industry where people don't even know who created them any longer. I created that back in the 80s. And I've got a sales training manual, 1986, that introduces family, occupation, recreation, motivation. And amazingly, that has gotten all over the industry. I love it. So number three, reiterate, what is number three?
Oh, well, that was number three, is not taking every customer opportunity on as a buyer and not giving great demonstrations and walk around. So we need to look at every customer as a actual buyer, is capable, do a little bit of the pre-qualifying in a way that's comfortable to the customer, because, ultimately we lead the process, but they're only going to let us lead it so much.
Exactly.
So we've got to kind of it's like leading a horse to water. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's the same with the customer, that you can take them through hey, we've got this 10-step sales process. Well, some people after step 4 are going to be like, hey, wait, this feels like it's getting pushed on me, and I'm not really liking the way that I'm being treated, or my spouse isn't really liking the way that we're being treated, or the way this process is going. They're going to start to, retreat. And so you've got to kind of keep it about them. And that's why you really need to work on, and I talked about this with Brandon Hardison yesterday. We brought your name up. I told him to share it to his classroom if he had some time to do it live. I don't see any of them on there, but I think that we really need to do that. Start with the, great meet and greet. And I know now it's different with the COVID and social distancing and mask and
I hate the mask part of it, and it's necessary. But you can't see facial expressions.
Wife and I we've got a 15-year-old daughter, and especially our 8-year-old son. And I really don't share this, but he had some speech problems. And so he learns by watching people's mouths. I mean, he's the sharpest person I've ever met, the best salesperson I ever met. I mean, that kid comes up to me, and I don't care if I've got 50 projects going on. Somehow me and him are watching a YouTube video on lizards or something. He wants I've got notebooks everywhere, and I've got notes, this and that. I've got my phone going, an iPad, my computer, and I'm like,
now, you still go into dealerships, correct?
Absolutely.
I've got 5 million miles with Delta, and that's just Delta. That's not counting American Airlines or United or anything. I've got miles with all of them, but just Delta alone, I've got 5 million miles. And I have been in more than 1,000 showrooms that I've actually interacted with customers, salespeople. I've done F&I, I've taken TOs. I've been to 49 out of the 50 states, working car deals. I have not yet made it to Alaska. I made 50 trips to Hawaii, all the way from Atlanta. So what I'm saying, there's never a need to lie, cheat, sneak, deceive, or misrepresent to sell cars. Everything we do can be done in an ethical, honorable way. And I'm going to answer every customer's question, every one of them. But timing is important. There is a woman in the Boston Pops Orchestra who is paid $10,000 a month to play the cymbals. I personally can play cymbals better than she can. I can make a louder, crisper sound. I'm a better cymbal player than she is, but they won't pay me $10,000 to play the cymbals because I know how to play the cymbals. I just don't know she's paid to know when to play the cymbals. The Star Spangled Banner's got 3 cymbal crashes in it. Could you imagine the Star Spangled Banner and me looking at the director going, now? So timing is all important.
Yes.
Timing is absolutely important. You don't need to know how, you need to know when. And you need to know when to back off. You need to know and closing is not pressure. Everything I teach, and you've seen some of my word tracks, are conversation. They're not memorization. I tell people, conversation, not memorization. Speak with the people, don't speak at the people. And that's nowhere is that more true than F&I. some of the F&I schools out there are teaching mindless reciting of word tracks that sound like a little robot or a parrot, just terrible. Hey, I see Damien Boudreau just checked in. Eddie Gilbert. Hey, Eddie's a good friend. Anyway, what other mistakes do you see salespeople making?
Not mining prospects.
Ooh, big one.
Working service customers, working orphan customers, following up with previous customers. If you follow up, we've heard of birthday lists and things like that. It's important you call up. Hey, Jim, I just saw on my CRM, or we're friends on Facebook. I just saw on Facebook, it's your birthday. I just wanted to call and see how you and Debbie are doing. Let them answer. We're good.
That is my ultimate skill personally. I love it.
Yeah, you've always been great at it. And I've kind of tapered back a little bit recently, but it's powerful, and it keeps your name out there. And I always teach, whenever you do something for a customer, now you have the ability to ask, hey, by the way, Jim, you deal with a lot of dealers, and maybe you don't travel to the West Coast anymore, blah, 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 blah. Do you have any previous clients out there that I should be talking to? Or if I'm selling cars, hey, Bob, it's happy birthday. How's Carol doing? How's Cindy? How old is Cindy now? Oh my gosh, she's 19 years old. She's in her second year of college. I can't believe that. Da 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 da. Hey, by the way, Bob, are you still in the bowling league? Yeah. I got my first 270 the other night.
Imagine that. Do you know Frank Crinity?
Yes.
Frank Crinity sells 130, 140 cars a month. I mean, He's a machine. Now, he does all of that through super networking. And I am a super networker. I've never ever achieved what he has in sales. I've achieved it in other parts of the industry. But to watch Frank Crinity sell, he is a machine. But the networking is so incredible. I never lose touch. How many people were in your high school graduating class?
220.
How many of those people do you know and associate with today?
Associate with, as far as like on a phone conversation, probably 2. As far as maybe social media friends, 30.
But I bet you knew most of those 220 people back when you went to school with them.
Oh yeah, it was a pretty small high school.
Yeah, so you knew all those people, you knew things about them. They were relationships that you had, and you let them drift into the past, and they evaporated.
Yes.
We do that with customers.
Correct.
Customers drift into the past and evaporate because we don't keep in touch with them. Noel, personally, have you ever gotten a message from me on Facebook? Hope you're having a great day. I hope you're safe and healthy, and you and the people you love.
At least 25 or 30.
I send out 100 of those a day. I don't want to burst your bubble. You think you're the only one I do that with.
No, I know you do.
I do 100 of those a day. I hope you're safe. I hope you're healthy. You and the people you love. Call on me anytime. I touch people every single day. I don't want to ever let people drift into my past and evaporate. I personally have 150,000 people on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, all my social media.
Right.
And if some of those people are duplicates on 2 mediums, right, I bet it still boils down to 100,000 different people. And I'm touching as many of those people as I can and staying in touch with them, and because I care about them. And that's what I want car salespeople to understand. Stay in touch. How do you get referrals? You give referrals.
Yes. If
I've got a customer that's an electrician or a plumber, I refer customers to them. How do you get your bird dog network in states that's legal? In states that's legal, I would pay people to refer customers to me. I knew people that had big referral networks. There were salespeople that actually gave away trips to Hawaii to customers that referred people to them, had contests. So what is your next biggest mistake salespeople make?
Yeah, so this would be my number 5. And so this is the kiss of death. And when we just had our little chat here for a moment, but it's falling into the dark web, we'll call it, the swamp, another catchphrase we're hearing all over the place, but falling into the dealership politics, the drama, the gossip, and circling around with the underachievers and letting them be the fertilizer for your mind. And what you touched base on earlier is, you emulated the top producers. That's when I really turned my sales career around, is I started seeing what the top salespeople did and saw where I had similar talents or where they really excelled. And so it's just really getting hung up on, well, Sally sold 15 cars last month and I only sold 6, so those must be all bones. And Johnny, he did 25 cars last month, and I saw that like five times a service writer, service advisor brought a customer up to him. And, they're just so worried about the things that you can't control. And so, you can control your attitude, you can control your mindset, you can control your activity, and therefore you're in control of your production. And so when you get caught up in the web of all the negativity, because everywhere has negativity, right? Everywhere does. Everything has some bit of negativity, whether it's one thing or the other.
Everybody, and there's always those people. And by the way, most of my career, I was a manager. I was a manager longer than I was a salesperson. And I wasn't a world record setting salesperson. I was a world record setting manager. So when I talk about management, I would fire bad attitudes. I mean, you could sell 30 units a month and I would put you on the street if you had a bad attitude, if you were a miscreant, if you were spreading bad attitude about the dealership. Bad attitude is grounds for termination. That used to be above my door. And people understood that. Because a bad attitude will infect the dealership. And when you start hanging around people with bad attitudes, you become part of the problem.
It's contagious. And you can't just wear a mask to
no.
fight it off. You got to stay away from it.
Absolutely.
You got to social distance from it.
Well, listen, Guy, we have had one heck of a beautiful visited. What else do you have to teach today?
So I would say all those things, but sales is the highest paid profession in the world. And I remember I once had I had a girl I sold a couple cars to, and her brother actually drove from Chicago when Ford came out with the first Fusion hybrid, and he worked for Northwestern University, and he was like in the HR department. And one day he went up to his superior. And he said, he literally drove from Chicago to Ann Arbor, Michigan, 250 miles to buy a hybrid from me, probably passed by 150, 180 dealerships, right, to buy from me because of the reputation I had and how well I took care of his sister. And so he was working for Northwestern University, and he's in the H&R. And so he was doing the checks or what have you, and he went to his superior, and he said, oh, my gosh, we've got a problem here. He's like, I'm doing the taxes. And he's like, so-and-so only made $45,000 last year. And other person made $1.2 million. And he's like, there's got to be an accounting error here because they're doing the same job. And then his superior said, well, this is how this comes up, is because so-and-so sold this much. That's why they made $45,000 last year, to where other person made 1.2 million because they sold this much. And that's what I love about sales is you write your own paycheck.
Well, not just that. Have you ever, I ask salespeople in a meeting, what is the biggest deal you personally ever did commission-wise paid to you? And people start raising their hands, and a salesman say, well, I made $2,500 commission on one deal. You did. And let me ask you a question. Did you know that customer was coming in that day? No. So in other words, that customer walked on your lot, called you up in advance, whatever, go on the keyboard, you met them on the internet, you met them by email. I don't care how you met the customer. And they gave you a deal, they gave you a $2,500 commission. What if you'd have greeted them with a mini deal attitude? What if you'd have walked up? How many $2,500 commissions walk in your dealership every day and get greeted by a mini deal mindset salesperson? How many $2,500 commissions get wasted every day because you didn't have your attitude correct? You didn't have the go for it attitude. You see, you're not cheating a customer at any price.
No.
Because there's not enough profit in a car to cheat a customer. I mean, we got 2 and 3% markup, 5% on some of these cars. Furniture and jewelry are marked up 100 and 200% in every market. So you're not cheating a customer even at a full price deal. It's impossible. So don't think in those terms. Full price is actually a fair price. You're not going to get full price. I mean, and if you're in a no haggle one price dealership, no problem. But whatever price your dealership says, that becomes full price. And full price is a fair price. The no haggle price, if that's your dealership, that is a fair price. Don't look like you're cheating anybody. You're not, because it is a fair number. So anyway, I'm so pleased. Let me ask you a personal question.
Absolutely.
How do people get in touch with Noel Walsh?
Yes. So, and I'll put it here in the comments.
No, I'll put it right on the screen right now. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
So they can reach out to me on social media, but other than that, they can go to my email, which is my name, Noel, at NW, the letter NA, salestraining.com.
Well, let me ask you now, is that it?
Bam, right on.
There it is right there. So if somebody wants to ask you a personal question, that's how they would reach you.
That, or if we're connected, I see some of the people here I know, and if they're connected with me on Facebook, they can send me a messenger. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm probably most active on Facebook, so Messenger would probably be the best. But they can reach out to me there, and I'm here to see salespeople succeed. This has been a great business to me. It's been great for my family. It's given me a great life. I only have a HSC or HSG as well.
Yeah.
And so I'm only an HSG, but I worked hard. I was passionate. And so I did very well selling. I had a great, client base. In fact, I know you know the story that I actually moved here to St. George to make sure that I focused completely on, because I was at 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And it was never that I thought that I was better than selling cars. It was just like I thought it wasn't as exciting for me anymore. It was time to make another move to another industry. And I got into sales training. And so we moved here to St. George, Utah. I talked to you about where I live. So I would move away from work because I was doing so well. And basically all I had to do was answer the phone and say, when can you make it in? Because I had that big of a business. And I just had people coming and people referring. And I networked through my church. And so my managers were like, well, you don't need to leave. So for almost 2 years, I only worked the last 2 weeks of the month, and I was still one of the top 5 salespeople in the number 3 Ford store in the nation. And I told people too on my voicemail, I'm like, hey, I do not take phone calls on my 2 weeks off. I'll get back to you on emails or Messenger or what have you, text. And when I come in, I'm like, I'll take care of you. The deals will still be the same, this, or that, blah, 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 blah. And so I was able to do that. And then finally I had to say, hey, I'm still doing the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So now it's time to go to it completely. But in this business, you have the opportunity to make a great living, have a nice life. And like I teach my students a lot, and I was just sharing this with someone the other day, and I said, hey, when you sell 10 cars a month, your life doubles when you start selling 20 cars a month, right?
Exactly.
Thanks,
Morgan.
You're going to better, you're staying in better hotels, you're going on better vacations, you have a bigger house, you're eating at better restaurants.
Why do you do this? Why do you do this? Do you want luxury vacations? Do you want a bigger house, a better car, education for your children, security into your old age, jewelry, hat? Why are you doing this? Until I get a salesperson in touch with why they do this, it justifies the hours. It justifies everything. My wife said to me one time, she said, I wish you could be home more. I said, well, I could stay home all the time and make $30,000 a year like your ex-husband. You gotta put in your dues. Hello, Dwight. You got to put in your dues. Really important. Well, listen, big guy, I think we've covered the subject. Do you have anything else we need to talk about?
Just, sales is the number one paying profession in the world. And you're going to be there 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Why would you not maximize that time, especially when you're in control of your destiny? Now, if you're a data processor, you're going to make your 45, 50 grand, whatever it is you make, right? So you're basically an entrepreneur. I always say you're basically like a kiosk in the mall.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
They pay for the lights. They pay for the heating and air conditioning. They pay for the phone system. They've got a service shop, a body shop. They have porters. They have people in the office. They have greeters. They give you all these tools. You're going to be there anyways. Mm-hmm. Make note of what you have in front of you. And when you go from 10 to 20 to 30, and we know Ali and Frank Crinitti, those guys, are selling in the hundreds every month. I mean, I talked to Ali and I'm like, hey, how was your month? And I haven't talked to him in a while. And he's like, it's kind of down. I only did 117. And he's like, I hate to say that, but he's like, last month or this time last year, I did the X amount. And so, even if we don't get to the highest level, we can still get a lot higher than we are.
Fantastic. Let's end it there. I am so pleased you did this with me. I'm going to be putting this on my private platform, and people got your email address. They can call you. I am so pleased to be your friend.
Hey, I really appreciate you and all that you do and how you reach out. And if you do want to send this to me also, like you did on the last one we did about a year and a half ago, I'll put that on my YouTube, and we'll make sure that gets out there too, if you're interested in that.
I'm interested. Do it. Take care, big guy.
Hey, I appreciate you.